I saw this tweet and I told my missus, and I thought we were in the car and I thought I was going to have a crash. She was so angry, but here it goes. For those of you who haven't already seen it, this was what it was. I think the tweet's been deleted since, which is good. And it was basically how they're saying that Anne Frank had white privilege. Yes. You're okay.
For those who are listening, I'm lost. I'm completely lost for words. I don't know where do you begin?
For those of you who read the books, especially those who read the books, and pay attention to history, and those who respect history, all know that this is not true. Unfortunately, in our modern sense of thinking, where we use social media for so many discussions and so many, debating points. Well, I say debating, it's a case of like a witch hunt sometimes. Someone felt it within their wisdom and within their power to kind of say something like this to try and spark a debate or some kind of hot take, as we say it. And we're going to talk a bit more about hot takes, but it just goes to show it's just do they have any kind of knowledge or like responsibility, knowing what kind of impact they were making when they just tweeted this? The worst thing it could be done is if it was a joke. In fact, it'd be worse if it was a joke, because it's just not flaming funny. Go talk to the people who are still being affected by it today. All the events that happened during the war, all the events of them being. I mean, I've got a big passion for history. I like to learn from it, so we don't. I think these sometimes in points of history, it's good to see these kind of things as a warning of what not to do, and to appreciate that in today's society we're not doing these things anymore. I like to believe that, but by saying to attach a modern argument to something that you can't even prove because you weren't even there, just seems mind-boggling to me, and just so outrightly disrespectful, dangerous, and disgusting to all of those again who have actually been affected by the events that happened in World War II and going to the camps. I don't need to say the name of the place because we should already know it. I'm not going to say it. It's just a case of just how dare you think you can get away with saying something like this. And the worst thing is that there's going to be a handful of noisy individuals that are going to agree with this, because they don't think of the context of what it would have been like back in those days. What do you mean kind of white privilege? She didn't even make it alive out of the start of the war. I think only one of her families made it, and he died decades ago. She didn't make it. So what privilege did she have? The privilege to go and get humiliated and the prospect of death looming every day? Like, do you not think about these things? I mean, I get you don't have to particularly like history, but you just need to respect and understand it. Okay, and I'm gonna go back to one more thing. This is something I saw on TV a few years ago. How they were trying to somehow campaign to try and get as far as British history, which includes the war, for how it may not be a good thing for young children because it might affect their mental health, which is an insult to those who actually have mental health, a massive insult. For the fact that we should learn more about everyday life skills, which is fair enough, but why can't we live in a world where we have both? But why do we have to sub one for the other? Why can't we have more? I'm not saying that we can have it all, but what I'm saying is that we can prepare and arm ourselves for the things in life that are going to come up. You only have to look at in other conflict in the world, for all the knowledge you might have about not balancing a checkbook, for all the knowledge you might have about knowing how to do a mortgage, which are important. It won't matter when they're invading your country. It won't matter. They'll come and take it no matter how you can show them your mortgage deed. They're just going to shred it right in front of you. There's two quotes here. There's two words. One of them said, though, if and one very common one less known one. And one of them's where it's like, if you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it.
That's right.
You're damn doomed to repeat it. And we already know it's happening right now. And there's another one as well. And this goes to other kind of balmy tweets, just outrageous things and hot takes you've seen, and that careless talk costs lives. It might not be costing them lives right now, but it did all those years ago, especially in likes of the war and everyone's other white talk about. It's careless it's disrespectful. It's there's just not it. We can't. There's nothing sacred. Certain things, they're sacred. Is why you learn from them. That's why I think for all these historical elements or monuments that we have, we need to keep them, and so we can learn from them. It's free. It's like free publicity. It's like free history. You're learning from it just by looking at it to remind yourselves that we are in a better position to where we are now. So why would you want to jeopardize that for the sake of you couldn't be bothered to learn history properly?
Yeah, I think it's important, especially in regards to history, to have a good balance and accurate retelling of things that have happened. I think there's a lot of stories, as is often said, the expression of like, this history is told from the position of the victor, not the loser. So you need to always get, good context behind conflicts, behind wars. But when you that tweet about Anne Frank, goodness gracious,
yeah, it's hard to repeat, isn't it?
What I find really troubling is that just going back to that idea of TikTok being the number one access website in December, the fact that it's the go-to search engine for Gen Z and a good number of millennials. I think the problem then is like, how do you verify information? How do you make sure that what you're seeing is accurate? I know looking back to the pandemic days, some of the information that was being spouted out by so-called doctors, and I'll use doctors in air quotes, anyone, there's a difference between a doctor of philosophy, someone who's done a PhD, and a medical doctor. There's a difference. Both of them require a lot of time and studying. Depending on the discipline you're getting a PhD in, it's a long process and it's very difficult and very challenging. You have to then defend you have a thing called a vivo. You have to defend the thesis that you've worked towards. You've got to defend it in front of like a panel of people. So, and then as a medical doctor, you have to go through several different phases of exams to build up your knowledge, to prove your knowledge and have it tested. They're very different. Not all topics. A medical doctor, I would not ask them for advice about something relating to, say, business, for example, unless they're a medical doctor that has business experience. The same way, I'm not going to go to a psychologist and ask them about blood-related issues. That's not their specialism. So I think one of the big issues that happened at that point in time is that people were just, I'm doctor this, and thus, as I'm a doctor, everything I say is truthful. And that's where a lot of misinformation came in. And that's probably my biggest concern now, thinking forward, with the fact that TikTok and Instagram are people's go-to websites to learn stuff. Like, how do you even know what you're saying is true? And if that's the case, then because there's always truth. Truth is truth. And you can have your objective experience, you can have your anecdotal experience, you can have your opinion, but none of those things fly in the face of truth. Now, over time, we might need to challenge, and when new evidence comes out and new data, we might need to kind of reevaluate. Okay, this was taken as truth originally. New data's come out. We might need to reevaluate it. A lot of that, when you think of historical figures, when you learn more about the actions and deeds that they've been involved in, it does kind of make you call into question this person who's used as a hero, for example. When you learn more things that they've been involved in, it does kind of cause that scale to be balanced. Are they truly a hero anymore, or are they someone that we can appreciate for actions they've done in one context, but also accept that in other contexts they've actually not been a hero and they've been more a villain to some people? Yeah. So I think that's an important discussion and debate to have. But I do think there is and I think looking at it realistically, there's a major problem we might have going forward if people are taking TikTok as their source of information. I mean, for you as a history buff, like when you think about just that whole